I've been recording, friend.
Okay. I'm recording
The
too.
screen is recording, and I'm recording the voice.
All right. You ready?
I am ready.
Cool. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of Patch Notes, the Home Games podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, I'm Joseph, the Date Master. Today is March 22nd, 2020. It's a Sunday, in case you also wanted to know the day.
Once again, practicing that social distancing in the same city, but not together.
Yeah, probably for the foreseeable future. I mean, the world is not getting better, so...
No. One could argue it's getting exponentially worse. They wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll probably be doing this for, I don't know, for a while, as far as we can tell. So
For the foreseeable future, yeah.
Yeah, last week it was kind of rough. The audio sync, I know we talked about the audio sync issue being an issue and wanting to get better at it, but it's actually kind of impossible with this thing. I'm running on really terrible internet, so syncing up our audio is one thing, but getting the video feed that I'm recording on my local Discord thing to actually sync up with that audio is impossible because the video that I'm getting from Yazeed is later than... anyway, there's a significant delay, so this whole thing is going to be pretty bad, but you get to see us still out of sync and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, man. Home games. How did this week go for you?
This week has been interesting because I've been, home the entire time and not much to do besides working on home games and playing video games. So we'll talk about video games and stuff later, but home games has been super busy for me this week. Some good things and some bad things. Quite a few bad things. Actually, I just discovered some like 30 minutes before we started recording this, and it made everything a lot more difficult. And anyway, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Do you want to just hop right into it then?
I guess so. I mean, it's difficult. Like last week, I talked for like 20 straight minutes in the beginning. And I'm trying to think of if there's a way for us to both kind of like swap off in a way. I saw the notes and you have your Square stuff and maybe we could talk about Alex's Docker stuff, kind of swap off. I guess I just don't want to talk for 20 minutes straight again. You know what I mean? So anyway, I don't know. Anyway, WebRTC is what I was doing last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, last week I was talking about WebRTC and how I had kind of a basic proof of concept going with a node server that was doing the whole offer and answer stuff for the clients. And there was basically a client that was a leader, and this whole kind of chain from the node server to the leader client, and then kind of going off to all the other clients from there. And the big kind of summary, I guess, for this past week is that I found a node library called WRTC. No. And anyway, Node WebRTC is the package. And it basically just implements all that kind of stuff in an external library because it's not natively supported in Node to have the whole RTC channel kind of stuff. So the new structure is basically, instead of the server telling a master client to then tell every other client about stuff, it's just the node server sending out messages over WebRTC. Performance is a little bit worse, but it's still significantly better than just the socket. And there's kind of a whole bunch of problems that came from that. I got it to work in Firefox, but it's a bad way of working in Firefox. I'll talk more about that later, I guess. And it's a large dependency. Kind of our whole thing was just, very limited dependencies unless we absolutely need something. And I'm not going to go re-implement the standard for WebRTC processing in Node. It's just not something I'm interested in. So we added in the dependency, or I added in the dependency into a local branch. And it's pretty massive. I guess I'm just generally uncomfortable with that, but I don't really have an argument against it because, like I said, I'm not re-implementing all that stuff. So that's kind of just where that is now. Yeah, there's more details. I guess I just don't want to do the whole thing like I did last week where I just like talk and talk and talk. So
I got you.
Yeah.
Also, if there's like an awkward pause, just so you know, your internet is cutting out occasionally, so might just get a little bit of lag or something, and give you a weird awkward pause.
All right.
But I got
It's
all
all
of
good.
that. No worries. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little about my part, and then we'll kind of switch back and forth, maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, so I put out the Square PR finally, so that is out and ready for review and play. The other thing is I also updated the PR for colors, kind of in line with what you were saying. One thing I need to do is if the colors PR goes in, I need to change the Square PR to reflect that. A little bit more, but I think that overall pretty good changes to colors that you recommended. And then the Square PRs is basically working 100%. The only thing is that there is no like scoreboard at the end still. And I ended up not implementing a shared state management tool basically in the games class, because I don't know if we should implement that now or maybe wait a little bit and see if another game even needs it, and if it does, then we'll implement it. But all that stuff is there.
Whoa, my thing just stopped recording. I'll have to fix that.
Oh no,
This is trash. Okay, hold on. I think it's working. Yeah, okay. I think we're back. What a nightmare.
Cool.
All right. Well, yeah, recording on my Mac and my phone and having two computers up. This whole thing, we've never had a good setup for recording this. Anyway, we're back. Sorry about that.
Okay, cool. No worries. Yeah, so just kind of like a quick recap we were talking about. I put out the Square PR, which I think is good, and then I put out an updates to colors per what you were talking about in your comments, and I think that those were good changes as well. The Square PR is still missing one piece to what the actual game needs, and that's like an end of game scoreboard. I mean, there's that. And then the other thing I think that actually, no, I think that's it, actually. Yeah, I think that's all. That's really it. The other thing is I ended up not implementing a shared, like, state manager for all games. I think that it's better if maybe we see a couple other instances where we would need this and then generalize it from there. Or even see if we need, there we go. Or even see if we need a shared state at all, or if any other game is going to use it or not.
Yeah.
Because really I used it to prevent race conditions in that a player could move at the same time an NPC was going to try to move, and that was causing some problems. So I don't know if that's really... And I even had the solution that got around it without using a shared state manager, but I think the shared state manager for me worked better. So, yeah.
Are there any... I know you talked about like adding unit tests and stuff. I saw that you you updated the PR like 30 minutes ago, but I didn't actually look at it. Is there any testing or any kind of that stuff in there, or?
I'm gonna put out probably a second one with that in there. I haven't pulled out the change. I didn't commit up the changes that had those because those were testing from the game.js file, which I think is not right. So I'm gonna fix those up a little bit. But yeah, it'll have tests. Those tests will be simple. I'll probably test each individual function to see if it runs given like parameters, or if it errors. I'll probably just drop them in try catches. And then I'll make sure that there's functions that are there that need to be there, like the get base and stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking for the unit test for games. It's
Sure.
pretty much just like what home games usually calls, I'll call those. And I'll probably try like throwing in a key up, key down event and stuff like that and seeing what happens.
I'm curious, have you for some context for me talking about this WebRTC stuff, it's for performance and network performance across different devices that are not the host machine on the LAN. Have you noticed, or have you done manual testing with stuff that's not the host device, and have you noticed bad lag, anything like that?
So I didn't. I probably will after this though, and see if there is any bad lag or anything like that. I'm really hoping that there isn't.
There likely will be.
Well, because Square/Frogger is kind of like chunky. I'm hoping that maybe if whatever the natural lag is happens to fit properly within the like chunk cycles, and seeing if that gets that resolved. I don't know though. I'll have to take a look at it.
You have a tick defined in there, or is it just on update?
No, I do have a tick defined in there. My tick right now is actually what consumes the state queue. Okay. So that's really all it does. Is it just calls the state queue consumer. And
is the tick rate 60 a second?
The tick rate is using whatever is in the config, which I think was
pretty sure it's
some
60.
Number divided by 60. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Curious. Well, at the same time, in my head, that's just gonna not be great. But on the other hand, we tested on Homegames or Pico de Gallo a few weeks ago, and it was totally fine. So yeah, curious to see how that whole thing works, or maybe this whole WebRTC.
If anything, it should work better with the changes, because I did do quite a bit of cleanup between version 1 of Square and this version of Square with how we control NPCs moving, players moving, resetting, like all that stuff got major updates. Yeah. And also, now that I'm thinking about it, there's actually one other piece I'm missing, and this is something we talked about last week, which is figuring out a way of doing a max number of players. So I'm going to mute myself real quick and add that to my notes.
Sure. Yeah, max number of players is something that we should probably implement across the board. Probably have another discussion maybe off this podcast about how we actually want to implement that, but yeah.
Well, we talked about it last episode or the episode before that actually on implementing a max number of players. So I was going to probably take what we talked about, which I think was basically that the server would ask first before it tried to add a new player if there's room for one, and if there isn't one, the server would say like, "Oops, cannot do."
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna try and implement something like that.
I guess I meant in terms of like the more specific, what file handles that, who is responsible for all that kind of stuff, what that actual interface looks like for everything. But yeah, I don't know. Did you have anything else for Square or anything else?
No, I mean I'm happy to finally have a PR out for that.
Yeah,
visible to the world.
Very nice. That's awesome. So I'm probably gonna go on my word vomit for WebRTC, and then we can both talk about Docker stuff because Alex, our good buddy, put up a pull request for Dockerizing everything. So we'll talk about that after.
Oh wait, before we get into your Docker stuff, I want to let you know I actually saw WebRTC being used out in the wild. So for people who play D&D, there's a website called Roll20, and it's like a way for the GM or like Dungeon Master basically to control, like put out a board and like have people rolling and all that stuff. And they're the leader in WebRTC, and it actually follows WebRTC protocol. And I think it's makes sense for D&D in that there's like a leader who controls like the pacing on the game, which I think would make sense for home games just from like a logical flow maybe, where there is a controller, which would be like the host of the host basically, like whoever's hosting the party or the get together where home games is being played is probably the leader of home games, But I don't know, that was my 2 cents on that. I just saw it and I was like, oh hey,
yeah,
we were just talking about this.
Curious, does that website work in Firefox?
I think that some of us were having issues with getting it to run in Firefox.
Interesting.
Actually.
Okay.
But I know it was working on Chrome and DuckDuckGo. And
DuckDuckGo is a search engine. Oh, there's a browser they make a browser, right?
Yeah.
Is it based on Chromium?
I think I don't know anything about it. I just know somebody was talking about using DuckDuckGo for it, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then I think somebody did get it to work on Firefox, but I don't know if that's true or not, because somebody else failed to get it to work on Firefox and they had to install Chrome to get it to work. So I'm not sure.
Wild. Just a side note, I hate that the entire internet browser market is dominated by Chromium. Edge is on Chromium. Chrome obviously is on Chromium. And like every other browser is basically that. I'm pretty sure even Brave I don't even know. Anyway, it's like Firefox versus everybody, and I still use Firefox, so it's just like, ugh, use a real browser, nerd. It's like,
Wait, does Firefox not leverage Chromium? Oh, they use like Gecko or what do they even use?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Gecko is what I read somewhere, but it's not Chromium. It's like Google and their stuff versus Firefox. I'm just rooting for the little guy. I also just like Firefox more. Anyway, so the reason I asked if it works on Firefox is because I have still been struggling. I actually just an hour ago or so got it to finally consistently work on Firefox, but with a lot of kind of caveats that make me very unhappy. So to kind of take a step back, the point of me doing this and moving it over to Node instead of having the kind of leader on the client stuff would just be to save a little bit of efficiency instead of basically having to send from the WebSocket to a client and then the client to everybody else. To kind of remove that little initial step. But then another thing is that not everything can just support WebRTC. I tried an Edge and it's giving me weird errors. Not that anybody in their right mind would ever use Edge to do this, but in case they do, just kind of getting that whole thing to be okay. And it was not okay. So the summary there is I basically need to have a fallback for WebSockets. So the WebSocket needs to be able to send out the message in several cases. In one case where WebRTC is just not able to do anything at all. Another case is if the message is too large to be sent over, to be sent over the WebRTC channel, or if the message is something that needs to be delivered, not like a game frame, something like a metadata packet or the game asset bundle that's sent off in the initial thing. For example, that game asset bundle is megabytes large at times, and the socket can send that over just fine, but WebRTC, depending on the browser and maybe depending on the machine that you're running on, has a different kind of maximum that not very explicitly defined. The number I found when Googling around is 16 kilobyte packets. Sorry. So if you think about an asset bundle that's megabytes large, that just can't go over the WebRTC channel. So we're going to need to have the fallback of the socket just in case, that whole thing doesn't work. So adding it to the Node server, like I said, reduces that little hop of server to host client, which is kind of a weird, oxymoron? Anyway, so it removes that, but it also gives us that fallback, which is necessary. So, like I said earlier, slightly worse performance. It's about 30% slower than the 240 FPS I mentioned last week. So still like 180 FPS or whatever. Pretty good. And the delay between when the message was sent and when the message is received is on average about 1 to 2 milliseconds. At times reaches 4 or something like that. But for the most part, way better than the spikes I was seeing with sockets. And sorry, I'm just going through my notes. Big message makes it worse. 2 message channels. I don't know what that means. Oh, that's just me saying there's a fallback. So yeah, big messages makes the performance way worse. So basically as the messages get larger, the delay between when it's sent and when it's received becomes, larger. So just trying to kind of do some trial and error to see what a quote good number is for that stuff. And then it's like, oh, Chrome handles this just fine and Safari does not. And that whole kind of thing. So there's just quite a bit there of just me trying to mess with numbers and saying, I don't know, 10,000 good size. I don't know. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But the real bad part is, getting it to work in Firefox, I was banging my head against this for the longest time of why does Firefox not establish the data channel? Like when it sends out when the Node server says, hey, here's my offer. On Chrome, it's just like, cool, here's my answer. And then the Node server takes that answer, and then they're both good. They establish the channel. On Firefox, it just does not. It creates the answer, and nothing really happens from there. And so after a lot of trial and error, and I actually didn't find this anywhere documented from all the Googling I've been doing, but Firefox does not let you do that whole thing unless you've requested access to the webcam. So...
What?
I know, dude. Or the microphone. So some media device. And from what I can tell, it's because that data that it's sending back has your private IP address in it. And for security reasons, Firefox does not just let you send that out and do whatever unless you have explicitly asked the user for permission to access, get user media or whatever, which accesses either the webcam or the microphone. So in that case, it's assuming like, oh yeah, WebRTC, and they've kind of, whoever at Mozilla has assumed that anybody ever doing WebRTC stuff is going to be doing it for webcam and audio. And that opens up a whole can of worms because on one hand, not even on one hand. Number one is I'm not using either of those things. So I got it to work after requesting permission and then having access and then doing nothing with it. And then Firefox is able to communicate back and forth with my server. And that just feels wrong. For example, on Mac, right, like you have, if you have your webcam being accessed, there's a little green light on the webcam. And so it's like a weird feeling when it's like, hey, yeah, give me access to your webcam and your microphone. We're not doing anything with it, but that camera light's always on. It's really hard to convince someone that you're being honest there. So that's just a bad way to get into it. I wish there was another way to do it in Firefox. I don't really know how far I'll go into trying to make that make sense. But the other big problem there is that API is completely unavailable if you are not using HTTPS or localhost. So every device that's not the host, not talking to itself directly over the thing, is not talking to localhost, right? It's talking to some IP address that just happens to be on the same local network. But there's no HTTPS there. We don't have certificates generated for that whole thing, and so we don't have that kind of incorporated into our pipeline, I guess, when running home games. We don't have certificates. So then that essentially means if you're going to run Firefox on a non-host device when running home game stuff, when trying to access homegames.link, you cannot use WebRTC, which again is nice that we have the WebSocket backup. But the problem there is, like you mentioned, I think last week or the week before that, we want to have the ability to kind of have a walkie-talkie app. And if you want to have a walkie-talkie app, you have to access someone's microphone. If you want to access someone's microphone, you need to have HTTPS. And I remember I tried doing that initially, and we had it for a time, and then I removed it all because it was super complicated, and I think it didn't work fully the way that we wanted it to. So kind of a few problems came from that, and I just think it's a big complicated mess of having to have certificates in order for WebRTC to work, but then also having to request access for something even if we're not using it for WebRTC to work. And I kind of get why Chromium is like 80% of the market share, because you don't have all this security nonsense. You don't have to worry about whatever. But I guess whatever. We'll figure all that stuff out as we go. I just kind of hit that. It feels like a wall about an hour ago when I realized that was how I had to get it to work in Firefox. And on one hand, I can just say we only support Chromium and we only support things that don't need to do this. And on the other hand, I don't like saying that we could just ignore a group of users. And I also we're going to need it for microphone access anyway. We're going to need to figure out the HTTPS thing. So I'll have some more kind of updates on that later. But in the meantime, like I said, I have the WebRTC stuff with WebSocket as a fallback, and I have a very ugly, basic, hacky version of that in my local instance or my local branch of home games. And I've actually implemented that in the game server. So last week I said that would be in the app server, but it's actually the game server because the game server is just saying, hey, an update happened. Am I sending it over WebRTC or a socket? But the games and all that kind of the swisher, none of that stuff has changed. So that's kind of my summary, I guess, of this nightmare that I've been living with WebRTC.
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Okay.
I guess kind of all over the place.
Super weird that some of those issues are popping up like that, though.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that Firefox links your use of WebRTC specifically to microphone and camera. I also wouldn't have guessed that the HTTPS thing was required, because how do you test on your local?
Well, on local, so there's an exception for localhost, literally talking to localhost. but every
Oh, I
other
see.
host on the LAN is not localhost. So I get it, like for security, like I totally get it. And it's a nice feature, for actual applications or commercial applications. But for this kind of toy project of this whole thing, it's just a super big pain. And I know you could do like a self-signed certificate or something, but then I don't like telling a user like, okay, modify Etsy hosts on your Linux machine, and if you don't have Linux, and like you know what I mean. I don't know what that even looks like. So, it's gonna be a mess, and we'll figure it out. But as of right now, it's just a mess.
Nice. Well, I think you've learned probably quite a bit more about WebRTC than your average human.
Yeah,
Probably more than your average web developer, and possibly more than your average WebRTC developer.
Well, the funny thing is, I still really feel like I have no clue what I'm doing. I keep Googling stuff, and I run into the same like 6 posts on the Mozilla bug forum where people are just complaining about something not working, and the Mozilla devs being like, "Oh, works for me." So, not really finding a lot of help there, and it's one of those problems of, it's the general programming problem of you don't know what you don't know, so you don't even know what to Google for if you don't have the kind of context for it. So, yeah, it's just been frustrating, I guess. Something like, nowhere, and this is also partially my fault. I'm not the kind of person who will just sit and read documentation because I just don't have the attention span for it, I guess. I'd rather just try to start writing code, and that has burned me a lot in the past. I just never will change my ways. And but my point is, not anywhere did I find that establishing a WebRTC channel does not work if you are if you don't have access to that whole thing. And the frustrating thing is that if you just open the .html, like not being served by a server, it just works. The WebRTC stuff in Firefox just works. But if you have it being served by the, like in this case, the node server, then it knows there's like a networking component, and it's just like, whoa, buddy. And then it adds the whole thing. I don't know how the magic there, but basically if you just open up the .html and do the copy paste between 2 different things, it works. Over the internet or over the LAN, it doesn't work. So anyway, that's my summary. I have no idea what's going on. Nothing works. Homegames.io.
Do you have anything else on the WebRTC stuff?
Let me see. No, that was about it. Just a lot of time banging my head against that stuff, but that was really it.
Nice. Well, I do appreciate you willing to hurt your whole body for WebRTC.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, like, yeah, it's been interesting. Like you said, learning stuff, and it's just the process, learning stuff, and it's trial and error. Why doesn't this work? Oh God, why don't I understand anything? How am I a professional engineer? How to, that whole thing, self-doubt, but it's all good.
Yeah. Sorry, real quick. Maybe I missed this part or whatever, but did you say that there was performance gains or losses from using it, like on Chrome, for example?
When I say performance, so there's a performance loss when compared to client, like peer-to-peer WebRTC. When it's running the offers created by a client, making that whole thing and becoming the leader, that was super, super fast. That was the 240 FPS, I said. Actually, 1,000 messages a second, roughly. Because if you do the set interval at 1 millisecond, they all got over in about a second, and that whole thing. When it's Node doing the WebRTC stuff, it's about 30% slower, but that's still 300% faster than the worst socket performance that I saw, but about aligned with the ideal socket performance that we saw.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So it sounds like on average we would be seeing better performance with WebRTC, assuming it all works out and everything.
Yes. As long as the data frames being sent over are small enough. If you're sending over, a 20 kilobyte update, like an example for our performance test, the perf test.js, that thing just creates a new entity and sends it over, and each entity is like 18 bytes, something like that. So as it gets into the thousands, that becomes too large to be performant. But that's kind of the point of the performance test. I don't think any reasonable game is having that many entities on screen. And also doing that thing, like I mentioned before, of limiting, basically doing the filtering for who gets what packets or what game nodes over the socket, or over the data channel, or over the whatever, being done on the server to limit the actual data being sent across, as opposed to having the client filter out some stuff. That'll help us. And so we, as home games, will say, hey, for performance benefits, try to keep the amount of game nodes available for any particular player to be less than 100, 200, something like that. Will be something. You know what I mean? Like this is the first kind of a guideline or whatever we have for performance stuff.
Okay, I got you. Okay, that makes sense. And then we'll probably iron that part out as we figure out what the actual number is and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I got like up to, I think, 40,000 bytes in a single message working in Safari. But if you crank it to like 100,000, it just doesn't work in Safari, but it still works in Chrome. So stuff like that. I think maybe like my initial thought is just 20K for the maximum. And then, different game nodes have different, like they vary in size depending on how complex they are. So it's kind of a wishy-washy number, but we can always just say, try to stay around it. My thinking is that in the player receive update method, it would essentially just be checking if the data channel is there, and then also the size of the message being sent to determine what channel it sends it over, the WebSocket or the RTC channel.
Okay, I see. I understand.
Because if we didn't have the web, like I was saying, for large stuff, if it's too large to fit into one frame, we could do some sort of crazy pagination thing. We would have to encode like a page number within the UDP, like within the packet. But since it's sent over UDP, it's possible that someone would get pieces of the pages and not all of them, and it would just create a whole mess. So I'm just thinking, for the large messages, just use WebSockets. And in case, like I said, we'll need the fallback anyway in case RTC doesn't work. So.
Yeah. Okay. I see. And part of the fallback is like if the message is too long, it just falls back to using the socket. Yeah. Yeah.
It would essentially just be checking if .channel if this .channel and message size is less than 16K or 20K, then send it over the channel. Otherwise, send it over the packet or send it over the socket.
Mm-hmm. Dang. Okay. Why WebRTC sounds way more complicated than any other network protocol I've heard of.
There's a lot there that I don't know. So anybody listening to this, like thinking that I am any kind of a source of authority, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just messing with stuff and trying to see what works. But I don't have the patience to learn.
It seems like you've been fairly
always
successful
been my problem.
with it, though.
Kind of on some level.
Sorry.
No, my frustration is just I know that I probably could do this better if I had more patience. But I have never had patience.
It's a good thing you didn't try to become a doctor then. But
seriously. A good thing nothing I do actually matters.
Stuff? Oh, sorry.
Docker stuff. I think you should open this one up to kind of give some context.
Sure, yeah. So the other day, Alex put out 2 PRs on home games and home games-web, basically to Dockerize those and turn them into Docker containers.
Images to run Docker containers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
To Docker images. It's just a Docker terminology. You create a Docker image and it runs a Docker container.
There we go.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're right. No, you're right. Correct me when I'm wrong, because I actually don't know very much about Docker. I know I use it at work, but it's just some magical thing that is used somewhere, and I just nod my head and go, Docker, yes. The Docker, whatever, isn't spitting up properly. Yes. But yeah, so you put those 2 out. I think part of the reason that he's putting those out is because in order for us to set up a CI pipeline, I think we do want to Dockerize them. So that what we can do is we can spin up the Docker's containers and then run the tests to basically build the CI port, or the CI CD. Yeah, because the CI part of the CI/CD pipeline.
That's continuous integration and continuous deployment for everybody.
So I was going to cover that piece, but so for people who don't know, basically the idea is that I open up a PR. The very first thing that happens is it runs the tests that I've written and were already written. And then after that, another person or people will look at the PR and go over like code and like utility, like functionality and stuff like that. So I think the idea is that we Dockerize it first, so that when we're asking, I think Alex and I kind of talked about this briefly, but the idea is I think that we're going to try to use GitHub's actions to set up like a CI pipeline. So the idea is that when a PR opens, one of the GitHub actions that fires is to spin up the Docker containers, then to run the tests, and then to spin the Docker containers down. And then assuming that passed all the tests, then we get the plus, like the check mark from the CI, or we do not get the check mark. So basically, either you failed the test that you wrote, or you introduced a regression. And so like the older tests will catch the regressions.
So is
so that's my understanding on it.
Is the idea that like I make a commit, I push it to some branch, that branch is merged to master. When that happens, automated tests are run on master, and then this whole thing happens, and then a Docker image is created at the end?
Oh, you're the last piece cut out, sorry.
And then at the end of all the automated testing, a Docker image is created?
It got out the exact same
my God.
Dude, I'm so sorry.
I need to get a different internet set up here. My God. No, a Docker image is that created at the end of the automated testing?
I believe so. So I'm not sure how that piece will work because I don't know enough about Docker. But from what I understand is that it's not that when you merge into master, it would do all that stuff. It's when I open up a PR from my branch into master, it would run that. So before we can even do the merge, it would test to make sure that you pass tests. Then it would allow you to merge. Otherwise, it'll block merging.
And I guess I'm fuzzy on why we would need Docker in that situation.
So I think you want Docker in this case so that GitHub's actions can spin up the instance. That GitHub can spin up the things that we can run. We can also write integration testing. I don't really know how GitHub's actions work though, because I don't use them at work, and I've never used them previously. I saw that they were there, and I was like, oh, maybe we could try using them. Okay. So I don't know if maybe that's like kind of like why maybe Alex should have been here for this piece, or whenever we can get him, maybe he can talk more about it. But I think you need to have something like an instanceable version of your product, so that GitHub can spin it up, do the test, and then spin it down again. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay. I guess I don't know either. I was just curious. I don't know how actions work either, but I was just thinking, to me, when I saw his PR, I was just thinking Docker images would simply be another option for someone to run stuff. Like the more tech savvy people would be able to say, oh, well, I'll just run this in for whatever reason, wanted a Docker image to run a Docker container. Because we also have our binaries and stuff out. So I was just thinking about like that, but if we need some sort of self-contained thing for GitHub actions to run, that makes sense also, but I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing too with the Docker stuff is I think you can put it up in a cloud instance a little bit easier.
Yeah, you could just do Docker run.
Kubernetes, whatever.
Well, Kubernetes, me and Alex talked about that we were talking, when he put up the PR, we talked on Discord about it. Kubernetes is certainly overkill if it's just running 2 Docker containers. And Docker Compose, I know underneath is just Kubernetes or something. I just know Kubernetes can be infinitely complex, and at the end of the day, it's like npm scripts do this, npm run start, npm blah blah blah. So, kind of, I'm not quite sure what that whole thing looks like, but I'm also not a Docker person. I know very little about Docker besides, create an image, run a container, deploy it somewhere.
Yeah.
And another thing, this is a larger problem too with our binaries, but I personally pay for the hosting for all this stuff, and so if it becomes to this point where we're pushing images somewhere, that's totally fine, but we essentially have to maintain this repository of versioned, bundled artifacts from everything in home games, and that's just a cost, a very direct cost associated with every deployment actually, or with every code push essentially. So that just seems like a whole can of worms, many cans of worms in this current episode. But
yeah, I think I wonder if after we get like a CI/CD stuff squared away, like once we've like ironed out a lot of these details and we become more like we're not rewriting large portions of anything anymore, and it's mostly just us adding games or like making fixes and stuff like that. I think at that point we would do like a release cycle basically. It's like we'd do a set number of like commits into one and then like release that in the binaries for people who don't use GitHub / wouldn't use like a Dockerized version.
Yeah.
Because people who do use the Docker version, such as the GitHub version, would just keep updating and like fetching and pulling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
In my mind, anybody who's technically savvy enough to do so should be able to access whatever they want, however fast or whatever, however often, get the latest broken code off of master and do whatever they want with it. But for what I perceive to be most people, or what I would guess be most people ever running this stuff, do not want to touch any of that kind of stuff. They just want to double click something and have it work. So for those people, it's really the bigger concern, but luckily we don't really have anybody using this right now. So it'll be good in the future, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my understanding on the Dockerization stuff. For people who want to look at that, PR doesn't work yet, so it doesn't spin up properly. So don't look at it quite yet, and we'll figure out how to fix.
Yeah, in classic Alex form, he put up instructions on how to run stuff, and they don't work. So you can build the Docker image just fine, but actually getting it to run, I'm pretty sure it's just run, and then you got to map the ports. But because I was able to get both of them running, the web and core images or containers, but HomeGames.link still didn't work, and Alex said he got his working locally, but probably just like a typo or whatever in the command he put in, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so that is I think all we had for the home game section. Do you have anything else you want to bring up last minute?
Just real quick, I just wanted to mention that it's hilarious to me that I have a fancy new gaming laptop, and I went to go download Docker and install it, and Docker doesn't run on any version of Windows besides Windows 10 Professional, or Windows 10, except for Windows 10 Professional. It's just absolutely wild to me. I guess it's because Windows 10 Professional exposes some whatever feature, hyper-threading, some sort of feature that Docker uses, because it's not a VM, it's like some weird, I don't know how Docker works, but some feature that I guess is needed and only is available in Windows 10 Pro.
Does anyone actually know how Docker works? Because I don't think I've ever met anyone who really understands like what Docker, like people are like, oh yeah, Docker does like X, Y, Z, but no one's ever been like, and this is how it does it.
Yeah. I had someone explain it to me once, and it was super helpful and informative, and then I forgot it all. Similar to Git, our friend Connor once went like an hour and a half, told me how Git works on like a local file level, like how it actually does all that kind of stuff, and super fascinating. I just forget all these things because it's like, that's cool and interesting, but I don't actually know anything.
You're like, yes, I understand. Git commit -m.
Yeah.
Git add.
Basically. But yeah, I guess that's it for home game stuff.
All right, you ready to move on to what's up?
What's up?
So we have this both as a shared thing. Doom Eternal is so exciting. I've played I think like 8 or 9 hours of that game, and I'm so into it. I love it.
8 or 9 hours? That's impressive. I'm like 5 hours in, so I don't.
I think so. You no way you're 5 hours in. It said you played 6 hours recently.
Well, I know at least an hour of that was me not at my computer, just having it paused.
Was what? You cut out.
I hate the internet so much. At least an hour of that was me just sitting at the pause screen.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
How far along did you get?
Without spoilers, I guess I just got the chain gun.
You're just away?
The chain gun.
Oh, you're further along than me. I just got the ballista.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I'm maybe 30 minutes ahead of you.
Yeah. So the lead up to that
Oh,
boss
God.
battle,
You're turning into a robot for me. Okay. I think it's all back. We're good.
The lead up to that boss battle was so tense, I had to take a pee break. I've never had that problem before, but I was getting so anxious because they kept hyping up. They're like, "Ooh, you're gonna fight this thing," and you're like, "What is this thing?" And they're like, "You're gonna fight this thing, and it's gonna be really hard." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "It's gonna be really hard." And I was like, "Oh no!" Like maybe I need to like take a break, go to the bathroom, come back like ready to go.
Yeah.
Man, it was that game is just so much fun. I love Doom 2016, and I'm really liking this one too.
Did you think that boss was actually hard?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think the game is significantly challenging, but that boss was not that difficult. What difficulty are you playing on?
Make me hurt or whatever.
It hurt me plenty.
Yeah, hurt me plenty. There we go.
I'm on the same end, and I've had moments of frustration because I'm not playing correctly or whatever, and I'm not hitting enemies' weak points, and there's like a very complex combat system, and that's nice. It's like surprisingly hard, which I really like. Like, I don't die in games often. But yeah, that boss I just thought was funny because the game itself is difficult, but that boss was kind of weak.
Yeah, I also didn't like after you fight him and then it doesn't tell you where to go or what to do, and you just have to know to jump in this hole. Well, yeah. I didn't know you were supposed to jump in the hole, so I was like hopping around the room like, what do I do? Did this game glitch? Do I need to like restart? But I also didn't want to restart because I was like, what if that boss battle is a lot harder but my game glitched and I don't want to like go back and try again?
Yeah. like there's a phase to the boss also, that's not triggering or something.
Yeah. Like I like glitched it and like dodged a phase because there was like the cuts. There's like the audio of the dude being like, "Ho, you think you've won?" Yeah. I was like, "What? Where am I supposed to go?"
No.
But also, the plasma rifle's burst thing is so OP. It's hilarious.
I haven't used that much. I've tried it. It seems fine, but how is it? Like, who does it kill? Like, what is it OP against?
Literally everything. So like you just once you charge it up, when you hit people with it, it's like the best. I think it's the most damage in the game, honestly. Yeah. I can't track numbers on it, but like you'll one shot pretty much anything if you're close enough to them.
Yeah. I think that weapon is great against the guys with the shields, because that's like one thing the game is like annoying with is that every time you see a new enemy, it gives you this little pop up telling you how to kill it. It's like, here's the weakness, and here's like a paragraph of text. I think that's kind of frustrating because I'm like 7 hours into the game or 5 hours into the game getting tutorials still. But yeah, I haven't tried that whole thing much outside of just the shield guys.
Yeah. The only enemy I think gives me a really hard time is Pinky, and that's because for some reason my brain is just like, oh, it's coming, dodge now, and I'm like, dodge into it, and I'm like, wait, what? And then I just run headlong into this thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna die.
That's the tail guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By far I think literally I'll leave those till the end. Like I'll jump around the whole map fighting everything else, and I'll finally be like, all right, now time to kill these things, because otherwise I'm gonna die trying to contend with them.
Yeah.
I'm just too stupid to know how to dodge, apparently.
Yeah. Do you have the thing where if you hit... I'm playing with the controller, so I don't know the keys, but if you jump and then hit left trigger, it'll go slow-mo?
Oh, no. So I'm not taking that perk. I took... Oh, man, what perks did I take? I took all the perks to help you with the glory kills, basically. Yeah. I got the one that, like, staggers them longer. You can kill them from further away, and then you do them faster, too.
Yeah.
So, like, my whole plan this playthrough is just to, like, get up as close as possible to people and just churn through them, basically.
Yeah. I have those, too. I forget. There's a lot of different upgrades. I forget if that's the one where you can only have 3, or if they just stack forever. I don't remember.
No, it's one that only has 3.
Yeah.
So that's the one that I think controls your like slow fall and stuff like that.
Yeah. I also keep running out of ammo, and I never have chainsaw fuel, so it's super frustrating. Anyway.
That was a mistake I made leading up to that boss battle that we were just talking about, because I definitely was like, well, this thing's going to be really hard, so I want to like conserve ammo and health and shields and stuff. But then they keep putting you in rooms where you run out of ammo, and after every one of those rooms, I was like, if I have to fight the boss now, I have like 3 rockets and like half a chainsaw. Like, I'm going to die 100%. But they kept like goading me on like that, so I kept trying to conserve ammo, which cost me health and armor.
Yeah.
Ah, man, that game is as well built as 2016, I think, or maybe even better. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah, it looks super great. I'm running on a high refresh monitor, so it can go up to 144 hertz, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that engine can do up to 1,000 frames a second. So it just looks so smooth. It is so nice.
I think they have to play that smoothly though, because their whole combat system is built around you being like hyper mobile. The whole map is like you can do pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah.
Even the platforming sections of that game have been super tight and fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Game's really well done. If anyone out there hasn't played the new Doom,
oh my god,
Animal Crossing, I mean, I don't know anything about Animal Crossing, but I'd recommend you at least try Doom because it's super good.
I ran out of disk space again. So
oh no.
I'm going to figure something out, but we're going to still keep recording. So this time I'll put up a little thing saying something, something. You know what I mean? Little placeholder image.
Oh, okay. So we should just keep talking and just go to images.
Yeah, it's also easier on me because I won't have to piece together multiple pieces of audio. I'll just sync it up once and then make cuts. But I won't cut this, I don't think, because it should be fast. I'm just going to move everything off to an external SSD, and then we'll keep recording. Thank you to our listeners for dealing with our lack of preparedness. So let me just move these over.
The soundtrack to this game is so much fun. God.
I've noticed, so for a time I was playing it without any audio, well, like with just TV speakers or whatever, and I wasn't really paying attention. But I put on some nice headphones and tried it again, and it was just so much better. The audio makes it a lot more immersive, I guess. Okay, this thing says it'll take 7 minutes to copy over all the video data. I'm recording in a 720p, and for whatever reason, it's huge file sizes. So it's 17 gigs of video that you've recorded just in the past 50 minutes. So anyway, in about 6 minutes, we should have video back. Not that it's super valuable because it's out of sync trash video that we have. Anyway. So yeah, Doom Eternal. That's Doom Eternal. We've both been playing that. I don't know how close I am to the end. It feels like the game is still starting, mostly because there's still all these tutorials and I still don't have some weapons, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm behind you, so I'd like to catch up, and then the next evening we'll talk about the whole game. I saw on Reddit some people already beat it, and I was like, damn, you guys have a lot more time to put into Doom than I do, apparently.
I have the time. I don't have the will. I get kind of burnt out on. I can't play games for 6 hours straight like I used to.
Oh, really? I take a break from one game to play a different game. That's basically how it's been going. I'll play Doom for 2-3 hours, and I'll switch to League of Legends, and I'll switch back to Doom, and then maybe watch a movie or something.
Yeah, I've been playing Doom and then a little bit of Modern Warfare. It took 5 days to download Modern Warfare on this internet connection, just for some frame of reference, I guess, for how terrible this internet is and how large that file is, that Call of Duty download file. I've also been playing Dusk, which is a Doom ripoff, but I was playing that before I started playing Doom. It was before it came out. And then after Doom, I started playing Dusk again just to finish it because I didn't like not having finished it. But yeah.
Is it good?
Dusk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's I think it's made by one guy. I'm pretty sure. Maybe a small team, but I know that there's one kind of name associated with it. This anyway. It's like I guess inspired by Doom in a way. It very much just feels like someone saw Doom and keys to like different colored keys to open different colored doors and all that kind of a thing, and just decided to not rip it off, but rip it off. And it's cool, it's interesting. There's 3 levels and 3 episodes, and they each have 10 things, just like the original Doom had, episodes with levels within them. And it was cool. I beat it. I didn't really love it. There's moments where like a big focus of it is darkness, and you have this flashlight, and being able to go through the darkness is kind of dependent on your flashlight. There's no battery or anything like that, so it's just kind of a thing to make it harder to see, which I really kind of hate. And there are also moments of the game where your flashlight breaks and you have to find another one, and the moments where you're just walking through darkness and you're like, I'm over here turning on my screen brightness on my computer trying to figure out something, and like shooting the pistols so the little like the spark can light up something in the room so I can see where I'm going was just really frustrating and not fun at all. But ultimately I think the game is pretty cool. That stuff is maybe 5% of the game. Everything else is, just running at stuff and then moving backwards and shooting like that type of game is. So it was cool. It was a nice way of, playing something that was like Doom before playing Doom. And then when Doom came out, it was also, that game is it looks like the older games. Like it looks like a Nintendo 64 game or something like that. So going from that to Doom Eternal, just looking incredible, was like mind blowing. So yeah, and then Call of Duty sucks. I'm still playing it. That's kind of my.
Are you gonna play the Battle Royale mode?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of that. There's a Warzone is the name of that, and it's I don't really play with friends or anything like that, and I don't even know anybody except for Tynan, I think, that has that game on PC. Actually, no, it's cross-platform, but still nobody has that game. So I've been playing solo in the Battle Royale mode, which I guess they didn't even have at launch. They just put that out recently. It's cool. It's I find myself doing the PUBG thing again, where I just go relatively close to the center of the circle and then wait. But the fun thing is that people suck at it, so you get to just win, which is not really the case in standard matchmaking because it does skill-based matchmaking, so it puts people who are about as good as you, which makes it really hard to steamroll people. So in the Warzone thing, which is free to play, you get a bunch of, people who really don't play Call of Duty often or that kind of thing, and so they're pretty terrible at the game. So that's nice. I'm pretty regularly getting like 3 to 5 kills per match, which is nice compared to my PUBG like 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And it moves faster. Like I'm not playing 40-minute matches with nothing happening like in PUBG. And I think one cool thing is they have this gulag mode, which gulags in general not good. But this thing of when you die in the Battle Royale mode, you basically get one chance to come back. And you get put into this 1v1 fight against somebody, and it's just whoever wins gets to come back. So they give you a pistol, and that's it. And everybody else who has died and waiting for their gulag fight to happen is just watching. So they're you puts you into a queue, and people are watching the fight from above and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of fun, but it's a good protection, I guess, against that case of, oh, I'm playing PUBG and I've spent 30 minutes getting all my gear, getting all my armor, getting all my stuff, and I'm prepared for a fight, and dude shot me from like a mile away and the game is over for me. That little I'm wasting my life moment is kind of in some way counteracted in this game because you get another chance against cheap stuff like that. But the reality is you can come back and still get cheap stuffed again. So it's just a way of making you feel better, I guess. But okay. So I got my disk space back, so I'm going to start the recording in a little bit.
My brother actually loves that game right now and has been playing it a ton now that it's back home or back in Arizona. and he told me I should get it too, and I told him maybe. So maybe if we both get it, if I get it, then the three of us can play. But I'm terrible at first-person shooters. I will tell you guys that straight up.
Well,
the worst.
The Battle Royale is free. So you can just download that and play that.
Is that through EA's thing or Origin? I don't know. I should know.
Battle.net. Oh my god, dude. Why is this not working? This is incredibly frustrating. I might cut this part out because I might have to fix some stuff. Okay. That was the worst. So I had to go and delete an old iOS backup. Hopefully that wasn't important. I don't know. But here we are. I think we're back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so video games have been very exciting again, suddenly.
Yeah.
Just super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Animal Crossing, but I heard that game's fun too.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play it, but I left my Switch in Seattle, and I truly don't know when I'm going back there. So I have no idea. I was considering getting another Switch, but that was a dumb idea. And also, they're sold out everywhere, so it doesn't seem like the time. I can just play Stardew Valley, which I have on Steam.
I haven't played either of those games. I don't know. They just don't seem like the kind of game that would interest me. From like an outside perspective, we never played them at all.
You turned into a robot, and I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that I don't think that I've never played those two games, but just from like having never played them and seeing like a little bit about them, I don't feel like I'd be super interested in playing them.
Yeah.
And they just don't seem super captivating to me.
I played Stardew Valley for like 30 minutes, and that was basically the very initial basic tutorial, and was like, yeah, I can definitely sink a lot of time in this game doing nothing, and that is like my ideal type of game. The problem is just I don't like playing games like that because I know that I can just play them forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, video games. Also, all these technical issues. One, thank you for everybody dealing with this. This is probably super not fun to watch. And it super sucks for us, too. It's very frustrating. But every podcast I've ever listened to has had an episode where they've had problems like this. And in my head, I'm like, oh, how does that happen? Why would you ever not have everything ready to go and perfect for your recording thing? Anyway, it's like a rite of passage to have a real podcast, have everything break.
Everything goes to hell and you're just trying to like put it together while... Isn't it like the same, like trying to fix the engine while the car's running or whatever?
Yeah, building the airplane while you're in it or whatever, the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know what else you had on here. You have Call of Duty, Doom, Dusk, and Devs.
Devs is a show on FX. It's super rad. So Nick Offerman, I don't know if you've seen any of the ads for this show, but it's actually my least favorite kind of advertising. It's just Nick Offerman with long hair standing and looking into the camera for like 20 seconds. And then it's like, Devs. And he's like, watch it now. It's like, okay, well, no one has any clue what this is about. You're not telling me, but I'll still watch it. Anyway, watched it. The first 3 episodes. The 4th one just came out this past week. Without giving a whole lot of info, it is a show about a tech company in San Francisco working on wild technology and kind of a whole bunch of mystery that comes out of something that happens in the first episode. And the rest of the show is kind of following this mystery. I'm fairly certain this is it. They call it a mini series. I don't know if there's going to be another season or what, but I haven't really looked. But we just finished episode 4 last night, and I think you would enjoy it. It's kind of this really just interesting questions that it raises about humanity and the world, and I don't know. It's just like a really interesting show, and it's about tech. Like they talk about, determinism, non-determinism, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Do you view life as a DFA or an NFA? So it's just super fascinating. And there have been parts that have frustrated me because I just don't like when you want something to happen in the show and it doesn't work out in your favor, that whole kind of thing. But yeah, you should check it out and tell me what you think. Devs
Okay.
on FX. We've been watching
it
it on
Hulu or
Yeah.
Netflix? Okay, cool. I do have a Hulu subscription. This will be the second time I've ever seen Hulu, a show on Hulu. I normally don't use it, so.
Yeah, we use it for Shark Tank and now this, so pretty good.
Sorry, what?
We use it for Shark Tank and then this. That's it. Otherwise, I don't use Hulu.
I started watching whatever the most recent season is of New Girl on Hulu, but then I ended up stopping because like I just wasn't feeling the new season at all.
The show is terrible.
But I went back. Was or is?
Show is terrible.
Okay, I don't know where it's at right now. I stopped whatever the last season was on Netflix when Jess and Nick get together, I think permanently, and I was like, this is a good stopping spot. But that lead up to there, I love the first few seasons of New Girl. Like, probably one of my favorite shows ever.
Used to be good, and then they just started making everything so stupid, and nothing matters, and everybody is so dumb and annoying. You're just like, okay, this show is terrible now.
Yeah.
They should have stopped.
Yeah, that was like that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know why, but I was on Reddit, and somebody started posting like YouTube links to some of the conversations between Nick and Schmidt, and their chemistry reminds me a lot of our chemistry. I think that's very funny.
Yeah. Well, luckily, other than that, our life doesn't mimic New Girl at all because it would be a nightmare.
No, luckily we don't live in a 2-bedroom apartment together.
Or in California, because aren't they California?
They are in California.
Yeah.
They're in LA.
Yeah. Thank God I don't live in LA. But yeah.
Right now would be pretty terrible. I think in general California's pretty banging now.
Anyway, song of the week. Is it song of the week time?
Whoa! I have one complaint, and I'm interested to see if you have a similar complaint. Okay, so I've had to work from home most of this week.
Yeah.
And I have such a hard time now finding time to not be sitting at my desk. Like, on the last episode I mentioned like our running challenge or rocking challenge or whatever started.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see the days where it's just like I obviously was working from home and then just stayed in my chair because one day I literally walked less than 1 kilometer the whole day.
Yeah.
So for 24 hours I walked 0.25 kilometers, which is like not even a quarter of a mile.
Yeah. It's like your room to the kitchen.
Yeah, it was brutal, dude. So it's like trying to find time now to like specifically be like, and now at the end of my work day, you walk out the door and you go for like a move. Like you go out and do something. Like you walk basically. Like I just walk/run every day now. And man, I don't know if you've noticed that too, but I don't know about this whole work from home semi-permanently thing.
Well, I never.
I walk so little.
I never leave the house anyway, so it's kind of just normal. Like I've been very much avoiding leaving the house. So yeah, I guess like I go to the yard because I also get no cell service in this house. So I have to go into the backyard to make phone calls. So that I occasionally have to do that for work. So that's my exercise and I'm fine with it.
It crushes me, dude. That's my one complaint so far about working from home.
Yeah.
My other mini complaint is that every day seems super similar to the previous day and probably very similar to the next day. So my days have been blending together a little bit. But I don't know if that's working from home or just like modern life at this point in time where it's like everything is just kind of like really super similar, but like everything is I don't know.
Every day you wake up and you can still breathe and you're just like, good, I got another day.
I'm like, all right, I'm awake, I'm alive.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Other than that, work from home, just chilling here. I'm so used to sitting in this chair. I'm afraid I'm gonna start leaving a butt print in this chair.
Yeah.
Or maybe I already have. I haven't actually checked.
Well, that's a sign of hard work. Is a good butt print.
Yeah. All right, I'm ready to move on to Song of the Week.
Song of the Week.
All right, what is Sup Mate? All right, because that's what you said was your Song of the Week, and I read that and I was like, I don't even have enough information to guess.
Sup Mate is a song that was on Young Thug's album last year called So Much Fun, and it is a song with him and Future, and it is just a goofy, dumb song where they both just seemed like they did a lot of drugs and then made this song together. But it's like one of the most fun songs I think I've ever heard in my life. And I've just been listening to it a lot this past week, playing it on repeat, which I rarely do a lot for songs. So, yeah, I don't know. Love this song. Kind of fell in love with it again this past week. And I truly cannot get sick of it. It is just so fun. So much fun, some would say. But the chemistry those two guys have on that song is incredible. Like, and the ad-libs are incredible. There's one part where Future just says yee, 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 yee over and over again. Just yee, yee, yee. And it's like, this isn't words. This isn't whatever. It's just raw energy. That's my favorite kind of thing to listen to.
Dang, okay. That sounds like a really fun song to listen to.
You should listen to it. I mean, it's definitely not your kind of music, but you should listen to it.
I will try it out. Nice. All right. My song of the week is Lotus Eater by Death and Rebirth, and it is, if I had to describe that song in one word, it would be menacing.
Yeah. That's a different vibe from what you normally have for song of the week.
Yeah, actually, so I've listened to Death and Rebirth for a while, but it randomly came on while I was playing Spotify Shuffle, and I listened to it and I was like, I really vibe with the song right now. The genre is called, I think, postmodern rock, so it's basically like imagine like hard rock instruments, but no singer, so there's no words to this whole song, but the whole song is like menacing, kind of like gritty, grim, like it makes you feel uneasy. I think a while ago, like a couple months ago, it came on in the car while I was taking me and my couple of friends to work. One of my friends asked me why I'm listening to a horror song. Like, it really feels like that song was meant to make you feel like not at all at ease.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. I really like it. It's super great. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% on this, that Lotus Eater itself is a reference to the Odyssey. Because in the Odyssey, there's an island of people who are called the Lotus Eaters, and that they're like friendly on the outside, but they turn out to be cannibals. So that like the whole song is kind of like built around it. It's like there's this idea of like, I mean, this is a pretty good song, but like at the same time, you're like, I'm kind of like uneasy listening to this. Like, it's definitely got that like menace behind it all. I don't know. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Nice. I'll listen to that. It sounds I don't know. It just sounds different from what you normally.
It is way different than anything I've suggested on here before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Death and Rebirth, I don't even know where they're from or anything about them. I think they have like 4 songs on Spotify. Most of them have like sub 100, like probably like low thousands or something like that, listeners, something like that. They're not super popular. But I don't know where I found them, but I've really been digging it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's song of the week. Let me check. You have a note at end, but that's just something that you wrote down.
Oh yeah, I just need to do that. Yeah. I didn't have another like note. I didn't have VS Code up, so I couldn't just add it to my to-do notes for stuff.
It's like one of those memes where it's someone like with a bazooka trying to kill a moth. It's like way overkill for a text editor. But you're also the kind of person that would need a bazooka to kill a moth.
Yeah, that is 100%. I actually don't like it right now because we have those like huge mosquito thingies, like mosquito hawks or crane flies or whatever people call them.
Mosquito hawk is a way better name. I've been hearing crane flies, but yeah.
I hate them so much, dude. Yeah. When I go on a run, I went on a run yesterday, and one of them, well, like when you're running, like you're not like you're making fists with your hands, like your hands are like kind of like open.
Yeah.
And one of them straight up flew into the little gap in my hand, and I panicked hardcore and like really like spazzed out with that, and I'm glad no one saw me do that. But I hate them with a passion.
Yeah, they're harmless. They're just super annoying. I've killed like 10 this past week.
Yeah, I 0 out of 10 don't recommend dealing with any large or small bugs.
It's true. Some bugs are okay.
All right. No, there's no okay bugs.
All right.
The only, to quote Starship Troopers, the only good bug is a dead bug. Do you have anything else to add in?
No, that's all. Just hitting walls on home games, playing video games, and I told you before the show, but I waited 30 minutes in line to buy toilet paper at Target. That's a pretty wild experience, and the world is on fire. So besides that, everything's good.
No big deal. It's all good. All right, everyone. I hope you stuck with us through the technical difficulties and enjoyed the podcast. And I think we will see you you'll see us next week.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Again, thank you for listening, and sorry for the absolute mess that we have going on here. But beyond the technical difficulties, just this whole thing is a mess. So thank you for listening. We still do questions. We haven't mentioned it, but like we kind of just stopped doing questions because we don't really have a lot of listeners. So all that whole thing. But if someone has questions, reach out to us on Twitter, HomeGamesIO, all that kind of stuff. Give us feedback.
If someone left us a comment on YouTube, would we see those and respond to them?
We do, but the only comments we get are people we've known so far. So I respond to those directly in the comments. But yeah, comment, like any way you could try to get information to us, I guarantee I'll see it because I check that stuff every day. So yeah, HomeGamesIO, and then again, we don't have a custom channel URL on YouTube because we don't have 100 subscribers yet. So that whole thing, just look up Home Games on the internet and find us somehow.
I think you tweet them out, right, from the Twitter account, no?
Yes, I do. So yeah, you can go to our Twitter page. I also have a link to our YouTube channel on our website, homegames.io.
There we go. All right, everyone. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.